This guy was deceived by the people he just met and was killed. But when he opened his eyes, he became a stinky zombie without any skills and only had 0 HP. To exact his revenge, he promised to become stronger, so he tried hard enough to level up by killing monsters. During the process, he evolved, and even became a dungeon master. He gained a lot of skills and became stronger than humans. But before I spoil too much of the fun, let's start the story. Our MC is Demiki Aoun, 28 years old, a senior swordsman and C-rank adventurer. Ever since he was betrayed by comrades and nearly died, he has been operating solo. He showed a sword to a shopkeeper to appraise it and learned that it was a red rarity magic sword, Flam. The shopkeeper wondered if Aoun finally formed a party, but he hadn't. The shopkeeper advises him to team up with someone, as it is easier to obtain rare items in a party. He added that even the A-rank party that arrived from the royal capital is now a trio. Aoun didn't answer his question and instead wanted to go to the guild to report and take his long sword maintenance. He walks outside thinking there is nothing good about forming a party. He recalled the Storm Cloud guest party and wondered if those guys are already S-rank. Well, that has nothing to do with him now. He will be B-rank soon. No, even A-rank is not a dream. He will not lose. A trio approaches him from behind, asking if he is Mr. Aoun. This guy is Martis, the leader of Red Silver Moon and A-rank party. He needs Aoun's help with something. Aoun wondered if this guy was the adventurer from the weapon shop earlier and answered that it depends on what it is. Martis explains that a unicorn appeared in the forest of eternal darkness and he would like Aoun's help in defeating it. The reward will be great. After Aoun agreed, they went to the said forest. Martis thanked him and continued elaborating that the unicorn is a monster that is able to run away quickly, so his presence was very helpful. To ensure this subjugation is successful, they need a usable attacker. Unfortunately, they are unable to offer the horns. Aoun thinks that even if he doesn't get the horns, the 30 gold reward is already good enough. He doesn't really want to team up with them, but with 30 coins he could live for half a year. Once this job is over, maybe he will take it easy for a while. It will be his first break in ages. Martis checked the map for a moment and instructed Aoun to confirm their safety. As he walks to check the surroundings, the three smile strangely. Suddenly, Martis shouted that he found it and instructed everyone to get ready for battle. Aoun quickly took out his rare sword, ready to join them, but the moment he turned around he was struck by a dagger. The person behind that dagger was none other than Martis. They couldn't believe Aoun really fell for it that easily. Good thing he was an idiot, so it ended effortlessly. He is just like a scrap of rubbish. Aoun was deceived again. He concluded that one of those three must have overheard his conversation with the shopkeeper at the weapon shop. Items placed inside a magic bag can only be retrieved by their owner, so they lured Aoun into the forest and created a situation where he had to take out the magic sword himself. So that is how it is. Martis wanted to take the magic sword Flam so they could go back because he doesn't want to breathe the same air as this trash. However, Aoun stood up, declaring that he wouldn't forgive them. Martis admired his persistence, but forgive or not, Aoun was about to die anyway. He swung his sword, hitting our boy in the chest. He was about to stand again, but Martis stepped into his head and told him to die in agony. Blood dripped from his body as the three started to walk away. He slowly moved his hand and opened the status window. His HP was 5 with the status of bleeding. His HP slowly drops as he thinks that he was deceived again. There's nothing he can do, right? He was going to die like this. It was a life where he achieved nothing. He was betrayed and deceived. He has a life of enduring endlessly. If he were reborn, he wouldn't endure anymore. He will become stronger than anyone and live however he pleases. Finally, his HP reached 0. However, when he opened his eyes, he wondered why he was conscious. He carefully checked his status and, after seeing the status deceased and having 0 HP, he was certain he was dead. Is this what dying feels like? He thought it would be more like ascending to heaven or an out-of-body experience. He is dead just as he imagined. Well, in any case, his body will not move and he cannot speak. And if he lacks senses besides sight, he cannot do anything. After a while, flies encircle above his hair, and his left face slowly decays. When he smelled the stinkiness, he realized he was conscious. But how many days has he been like this? He tried to check his status, but he couldn't pronounce it properly. He also felt intense hunger. He concentrated hard, and instead of mumbling the word status, he just said it in his mind. With that, he managed to see it. Now he has the race of a rot ghoul zombie with the status decay. He was shocked to see his status and wondered if he was really that monster zombie. Can humans really become zombies? Is that even possible? He touched his face and was disgusted to see that he was rotting. He tried to calm down and confirm the situation. His level was 1 and his stats have dropped drastically. Only luck is 3 times higher than when he was human. Seeing his agility is only 1, he wondered how long it would take just to move. He tried to look for skills and see the decay resistance. He has an iron stomach and pain resistance. He looked around and observed that the scenery had not changed since he was killed, which means this is the forest of Everdark. If he has become a monster, then he is now on the side hunted by adventurers. Is that it? The monsters here are mostly low-tier undead that do not drop items. At most, novice adventurers come here. If he raises his level before encountering them, he can drive them off. He recalled what his grandfather said, "Do not think about what you cannot understand until the time you can understand it. Instead, give your all to what you can do right now." Aun's knowledge from when he was an adventurer, along with the maps and tools in his magic bag, will definitely be an advantage. Now it is time to grind levels. 6 hours later, Aun was having a fight with this skeleton monster, E-rank with 0 HP. After defeating the 9th monster he encountered, he wondered if he had already leveled up. He opened the status window and was shocked to see he was level 7. Even so, the individual stats have rarely risen. He noticed the 21 remaining points and wondered what that was for. Could it be that he can freely allocate these to his stats? He tried to put it in his agility and was amazed that it bounced to 2. For humans, status reflected innate talent and accumulated effort. For monsters, it is the opposite. The body may transform in accordance with the stats. Since the rot ghoul zombie cannot use magic, he decided not to prioritize dexterity and intelligence. He tried to walk and run as he felt his body become lighter. He was glad he prioritized the agility and thinks that the theory for monsters, which states that the stats alter the body, was correct. With this, most monsters in this forest will be easy wins. No, the only scary one is the ghoul because they have high attack power. Even one hit could be fatal. He suddenly heard a noise and, upon seeing where it came from, wondered if it was a zombie. He got hungry but knew you cannot eat wood. Wait, he just experienced it. Do not be bound by human common sense. You could say that is a senior in the zombie world. Thinking there might be something to learn, Aun opened his mouth and munched on the wood. He observes his body, and upon realizing nothing happened, he furiously kicks the zombie. With that, he leveled up, and upon opening the status window, he was glad to see a new skill had appeared. He has a Predation level 1 with a small HP recovery effect upon consuming prey. After reading that, he apologized to his senior zombie and stated he would never forget him. I think you already know what he did to his senior zombie, so let's get back to leveling. He continued fighting monsters and defeated them. Thanks to increased agility, he can find monsters faster. He saw a ghoul from a distance and noticed it was heading straight toward him. With his agility, he can run away but decides not to. When he died, he decided that he would become stronger than anyone, become strong and live as he pleases. With that resolve, he rushed toward the ghoul and hit it in the head. He swung his stick again and managed to defeat the stronger foe. A surge of power emanated from his body, leaving him confused. The system instructed him to select an evolution, devourer, ghoul, or wraith. As he thinks about evolution, he recalls that it is common knowledge among adventurers that monsters can change form drastically. So this is how it works? In Aun's case, he can allocate status points himself. If he raises agility, the ghoul's weakness disappears. With that in mind, he chose the devourer ghoul evolution. His skin darkened, and his decayed face healed. Additionally, he can now speak. He tried to speak by opening the status window through his words, and he managed to do it. Now his race has become ghoul. His overall stats have risen, especially in strength and endurance. Now that the decay status ailment is gone, he feels so happy. Not smelling awful feels incredible. He can speak, and if he sorts out his clothes, he might even converse with humans. He was so excited as this journey got seriously fun. He was determined to raise his level and become stronger. After some fighting and running, he was starving and was about to hit his limit. Ever since he became a zombie, he has eaten nothing but tree bark. All he has on hand is a heap of anamandake mushrooms. Anamandake acts as a sleep aid in small quantities, but exceeding the tolerated dose causes the status ailment sleep. In his case, thanks to an iron stomach, his gut will not fall apart, but he still suffers status ailments. Why is he the only one stuck with this crap? He punched the tree as he told himself to stop sulking. More than the red silver moon, more than the storm cloud guests, Hound swore he would become stronger than anyone. He will become stronger no matter what. Upon hearing the sound of the river, she swiftly ran towards it, hoping to eat some fish. The moment he reached the lake, he jumped without any hesitation and submerged under the water. This is bad. The current is faster than he thought. This idiot didn't even realize that he jumped near the waterfalls until he was swept into a cave. That was close. If luck had failed him, he would have died. There will not be a second miracle, so he needs to be careful. For now, he will head deeper into the cave. He halted after seeing a glowing magic circle in the center. It is the entrance to a dungeon. He has no idea what awaits inside, but going back only leads to the waterfall anyway. Thinking there might even be monsters he can eat, he decided to go. With that, he was teleported inside the dungeon and observed the surroundings. So this is what it looks like inside. He heard a growl, but he knew it didn't come from his stomach. A piercing eye was looking at him from afar, and it was an orc, an E-rank monster. Monsters are categorized into ranks by species. That immense body of data is compiled into the monster compendium and stored at each guild. Monster ranks range across 9 tiers from F to SSS. Monsters ranked S or higher are exceedingly rare, found only in ultra-high difficulty dungeons or so-called danger zones. As for SS and SSS ranks, those belong to the realm of legend and myth, and the orc and he are equals, both E-rank monsters. Aun attacked using his hand and told the orc to behave himself and let him devour its pork. Maybe it is the hunger that makes him see this orc look like succulent pork to him. Now then, that ended more easily than he expected. He challenged the orc in armor by ordering it to come at him, adding that he already slaughtered its comrades. Seeing it has no reactions, he questions if it wasn't angry. Do orcs have no pride? He instructed it to come and ask if it wasn't a man. However, the orc in armor just stepped back, terrified. With that, he turns his attention to the orc, which regains its consciousness and punches it in its guts. The orc fell unconscious to the ground, so he approached it and devoured its meat. It was so delicious. The orc is a beverage. He kneels, clasps his hand, and continues eating. After that, he stood up with meat in his hand and thought that even after eating an entire one, he was not satisfied. Meat on the bone, he wants more of that. He saw a stair and realized it was the type of dungeon you climb upward. As he was chewing on meat, he was surprised to see a group of orcs. He looked at the meat he was holding, and upon realizing it was orc meat, he turned around to run back. The orcs chase him down, and when he stops midway, he realizes that if they come one at a time, it's no different from an all-you-can-eat buffet. He punched one of the orcs and bit its flesh before throwing it into his cafeteria. As he continued fighting the other orcs, the one he threw stood up near the stair entrance but fell immediately. After a while, he managed to defeat 20 orcs, and he admitted it rattled him. Understanding that it was the rumored spawn room, he wasn't surprised that people died when surrounded by these numbers. Still, the experience points are tasty. He opened his status window and grasped that against groups, his attack power is still lacking. From now on, he will prioritize strength and agility. But for now, he will eat. Compared to when he was human, his thinking feels more impulsive. Maybe his brain is becoming more like a monster. Still, strangely enough, he does not hate it. Maybe this version of him is not so bad. He continued going upstairs, but even after eating 25 of the orcs, his stomach still growled. What on earth is wrong with his stomach? He checks his status and sees that the predation skill level has gone up again. It is now level 3 with an additional effect that increases natural HP recovery while satiated. He keeps up on going and thinks that if he heads to the upper floors, there should be more monsters which are food for him. However, when he reached it, it was empty. He entered another room and went upstairs, but it was still the same, empty. He continued to walk, and when he looked above, he saw that it resembled the corridor on the first floor. He suddenly senses someone and realizes that the third floor has an orc archer as well. This group consists of orc archers and orc fighters, all of whom were E-rank monsters. The archer fired its arrow, but he managed to dodge. He notices that the arrows in their quivers do not decrease and wonders if the dungeon is supplying them. If he cannot rely on them running out of ammunition, then he will prioritize eliminating the archers. He kept moving closer to the archer and dodged every arrow that was fired at him. The moment he was close, he tried to punch it, but one of the orc fighters sacrificed itself to block that attack. At the same time, the other orc fighter rushes at him, so he pulls out his hand from the body of the one he punched and then strikes the approaching one. Seeing that he can take them down in one punch, he is certain that at this rate the rest will be a breeze. Scratch that, because in a typical dungeon, there should be a boss at the deepest point. The typical dungeon structure was as follows: facing the boss at the deepest point, and when it is defeated, a magic circle will appear. After that, he needs to touch the magic circle to be teleported to the exit. Exception: in a large-scale dungeon, there may be return magic circles outside the boss room. All the monsters here are only E-rank. No matter how he looks at it, this is a small dungeon. He wants to raise his level more before reaching the boss room. He suddenly felt a familiar sensation in his body. At the same time, the system instructed him to select his evolution destination: giant ogre, cursed mummy, or Oni human. Since he chose ghoul for his first evolution, did that branch him into the Oni-type lineage? That makes this choice feel extremely important. According to his memory, the giant ogre is a C-rank monster with tremendous strength and endurance, but lacks agility. That is excluded cursed mummy. Cursed mummy can learn a wide variety of curses as it levels up. That might be the safe option. He wondered aloud about the Oni human because it was not listed in the monster compendium. However, he feels like he has heard of it somewhere. Suddenly, he started to transform. He tried to tell the system to wait a moment because he didn't mean to choose that, but it was already too late. He already transformed. When the transformation stopped, he realized the pain had not been there the first time. He opened the status window and saw that he was level 20 with the vitality of 400 over 1000, magic power of 310 over 310, strength of 47, endurance 20, dexterity 10, intelligence 31, agility 50, and luck 35. He has the skill of an iron stomach with pain resistance and predation level 3. Upon learning he gained a lot, he was satisfied with the increased changes. He put the meat in his magic bag and decided to test his strength first. If the next floor is the boss room, he will retreat for now and try punching some orcs. He notices a room and sees a group of orcs consisting of an orc general, an orc mage, an orc swordsman, and an orc guard. All of them were D-rank monsters, a quite formidable foe. He activated his mighty arms and swift movement and then rushed at his opponents. He noticed that among these orcs, the general seemed the most troublesome. He dodges the swordsman's attack and bypasses the others to hit the general in the face. Seeing the general crash into the wall in a punch, he was amazed. With this evolution, he has completely surpassed his strength from when he was human. Originally, he was a C-rank adventurer, but adventurer rank is measured by a 4-person party's strength. In solo, even with strategy, he could barely defeat D-rank monsters. Combining his previous knowledge and technique with this physical ability, he might even defeat an A-rank adventurer. Whatever, he has lost interest. He told the defeated bastard pigs to spend the rest of their life trembling while they run away. After a while, he reached this floor and stood before it, deducing that it was probably the door to the boss's room. If the boss is an orc, the worst-case scenario is that it is an orc king monster, A-rank among orcs, overwhelmingly strong. Well, he won't know unless he goes. He pushed the door open and saw that it was a pretty big room. He walked inside and was met with these orc berserker monsters, C-rank. Behind them is a red ogre monster, B+ rank. It is a mutant individual of the giant ogre. Even if Aun has gotten stronger, if he takes all of their attacks head-on, he won't last a second. He increases his agility and strength by activating the powerful arms and swift. He needs to take down the berserker first and turn it into a one-on-one. He swiftly dashed in and was about to punch one of the berserkers, but stopped when the red ogre swung its weapon, cutting all the berserkers except for one. The red ogre swung its weapon back and then put it down before punching our boy. Frozen in shock, Aun didn't even make a move and just blocked the attack using his arms. With it, he slid backward due to the impact. If he takes it head-on, it's a one-hit out. He needs to calm down. At a time like this, he needs to remember his grandpa's words. Make up your mind. Don't lose in spirit. If it doesn't hit, damage is 0. Crank the vibes to the max. With that in mind, he rushes forward and then stops to pick up 2 axes on the floor. He dashes in, locks eyes on the target spot, and strikes it. He pulled out the axe and boasted he still had plenty of axes. He strikes its other leg and then its feet. The red ogre attacked, but he managed to avoid it. He jumped from behind, clenched his fist before punching its head. The red ogre drops its knee to the ground and roars loudly. Aun paused for a moment before hitting his opponent's eye, making it scream in agony. Aun wasn't done yet and showered it with multiple strikes, cutting every part of its body. He maniacally told the red ogre not to lump him together with some random pig bastard. If it doesn't get serious soon, he will turn it into a lump of meat and eat it up. Finally, he struck its head with an axe. The red ogre drops to the floor, dead. He realized he had gotten carried away and overdone it. He doesn't regret it, and he was not reflecting either, but when his excitement gets too high, his mouth gets foul. Guess that really can't be fixed. He crouches down and looks at the broken axe. Honestly, it would have been bad without a weapon. The red ogre doesn't have good maneuverability, so he forces his way through by getting inside its guard and boosting skills. Still, going barehanded against a monster above B rank is reckless. He checked his status and saw that he was now level 23. He now has the skill Appraisal Eye, a skill that lets you know the value, name, and effects of weapons, armor, and accessories. This is the convenient skill the weapon shop owner talked about. He looked at the boss and it was absorbed right away, leaving only stones. Something suddenly came out and it is a treasure chest. He couldn't eat the ogre, but there's still a harvest. Alright, it is time to open it. He took out the weapon and was amazed at its size. It was so huge. He activated the appraisal skill and learned that its rarity was a red ogre's iron club with a weapon armor destruction effect of a red attack power 15. There is so much amazing stuff that his emotions can't keep up. But wait a second, he needs to organize the information. As a monster, he currently can't casually approach town, so a skill that lets him appraise things himself will be useful going forward. Red Ogre's Iron Club. When striking the opponent's weapon or armor, it has an effect that destroys them. How strong the attack power 15 actually is unclear, but the rarity is red. To begin with, rarity is an indicator of an item's scarcity, and basically, the rarer it is, the stronger it means. Purple and gold rarity was the lowest, and they can be obtained at weapon shops. White and green rarity was common, and they can be obtained inside the dungeon. Blue has the highest rarity, and then red. Where to obtain them was unknown. The magic flam sword that was stolen from him also has the red rarity. It is something people would want badly enough to kill for. He tried to appraise other things like this bag that he got from his grandpa a long time ago. It is a magic bag with the rarity of red. Only the owner can put items in and take them out. It has a large capacity. If he sold this, wouldn't he have become rich? But he won't sell it. Finally, a magic circle materializes. He looked at it and concluded that it may be the exit. but first he needs to collect the berserker and then leave. Besides, you can never have too much orc meat. He notices a strange thing on a wall and approaches it. It's shaped in a way that really makes you want to push it. However, a trap might get triggered. Should he push it or not? Well, he pushed it. When a large stair materialized before his eyes, he wondered if the top floor wasn't supposed to be the boss's room. Still, he climbed it and was mesmerized by the room's beauty. The plant and water were glimmering, and a bridge spanned the middle of spring. What is this room? He noticed something in the center of the spring and wondered if it was an altar. He crossed the small bridge to approach the altar and saw a bright spear floating inside it. He picks it up and sees that it looks tasty. There's no way it's food, right? Saying that just made him hungry again. He was startled when someone in his mind instructed him to eat it. Is that Zombie Senpai? Zombie Senpai cut through the chains called common sense for him. Because of Senpai's teachings, he is who he is now. He opened his mouth and swallowed the sphere. With that, the dungeon core absorption has been confirmed, and the dungeon master of the Fornoir labyrinth has become the individual Demikion. His intelligence will increase up to the required value. As he pondered the dungeon master, he suddenly heard a voice calling him a fool. It is the sphere that turns into a pig. The pig couldn't believe Aum would eat him. He almost turned into poop, you know? Shock, Aum wondered if this pig was just a stuffed toy. Ars, the pig, introduced himself and informed him that he was a dungeon core. Aum couldn't believe that this plushie was really talking. Until now, Ars couldn't talk or move, but after being eaten by Aum, somehow he became able to. Is that so? Well, humans turning into monsters and all, so it's probably normal. But what is a dungeon core? Ars wasn't surprised that he didn't know and explained that a dungeon core is something that manages a dungeon without a master. A dungeon master only appears once every 100 years or so. Then what does a dungeon master do? Aum wants to leave this dungeon. Can he do that? Ars explains various things. The official name of this dungeon is Fornoir Labyrinth. A dungeon master is the ruler and administrator of this labyrinth. A dungeon master can use dungeon points to do various things, especially summoning monsters, creating new floors and rooms, and generating treasure chests. Moreover, even if Aun is not in this room, as long as Aun grants Ars authority, Ars can act as a management proxy. So, dungeons were things that someone managed? But how do you increase dungeon points? Well, they increase according to the amount of energy from monsters generated in this dungeon and from non-dungeon master beings acting or dying within the dungeon's domain. As a test, Aum gave Ars the authority and asked if he could give him some clothes or something that would hide these horns. Well, for something like that, Ars didn't mind. Actually, he can automatically generate monsters now, and it looks like the red ogre is generated when he wins. Was the red ogre absorbed immediately to collect points? Well, that's a bit different. If Aun recovers dead monsters, he can summon them again. Still, Aun really doesn't feel like he became a dungeon master at all. He recalled the events of the past few days and thinks that having a secure, safe base was enough. Besides, having someone to talk to is actually pretty nice, even if it's a plushie. By the way, what does he look like right now? If he reflects himself in the spring water, will he be able to see? He told Ars he would go to spring for a bit, but Ars told him he still had things to explain. Aun looked at the water, so Ars came up to him and asked what he was looking at. Seeing his face, Aun couldn't explain his look. Ars comforted him by telling himself he was adorable and had a pretty cute appearance. Aun asked about the clothes. Ars summoned it and told him it was done. Aun appreciated it and was glad it looked nice and simple. When asked what he would do from now on, Aun responded that he knew the location of another dungeon. After resting a bit, he was going to raid it. He was shocked that there were two more abilities the master of the dungeon had. The first is the intra-labyrinth transfer and labyrinth return. Within this dungeon, he can freely move anywhere, and returning from outside the dungeon is instant via transfer. The second is a subordination contract, simply put, scouting. If he scouts and the other party accepts, the contract is formed, and some of his mana flows into the subordinate, creating a connection. Also, he became able to use telepathy. Even if he is far apart and without words, conversation is possible. That information surprised Aun. Well, Ars too was taken into him and a connection has been formed. By the way, subordinates can also use the previously explained transfer and return. Isn't that a lot of information at once? Aun can't remember any more than this, so he suggested explaining the rest gradually later. For now, he will change clothes, check his status, and sleep a bit. On the other hand, Ars will use the remaining points to make a bed, and wish him good night. Aun obtained a safe base and his first sleep in several days. When he woke up, he wondered where he was but immediately recalled that he had eaten the dungeon core and fallen asleep. So, it wasn't a dream after all. Noticing that the master was already awake, Ars informed him that he had slept for 3 days. He made a small room next to the core room so the master could sleep comfortably. Aun thanked him but felt awkward when called master, so he suggested calling him Aun. Ars agreed and questioned if he was going to another dungeon. Well, he is, but is that okay? Ars told him there is no problem about it because when the dungeon master is absent, he, as the core, can simply handle management in his stead, just like himself. If Aun absorbs that core as well, then that dungeon as well will have Aun as its master. Aun understood it and was excited to head out right away. If anything happens, they can talk telepathically, and when he returns, it's the labyrinth return, right? Ars informed him that the transfer magic circle to go outside is in the core room and told him to take care on his way. Aun agreed and stepped on the magic circle before waving goodbye. He was teleported near the river where he was swept away earlier. Just in case someone sees him, he will put up his hood. Now his destination is Soryoko Hygen, the verdant plains. He swiftly ran, bypassing all the monsters in his path. Finally, he reached the verdant plain. From here on, he will head out while casually hunting monsters. A horned rabbit monster Deerank suddenly sneaks up on him, but he punches it in time. After that, he fought goblin Deerank monsters. As he walked, he saw a pack of gray wolves C-rank monsters. Their opponent is a fox-type magic beast. The fox barks before pouncing on one of the wolves. Surprise, Aum was impressed by the fox. Even with such a small body, it's got real guts. It's not giving up, even against multiple stronger opponents. He likes it. He activated the Swift to boost his agility and then jumped in front of the fox. He looks at the fox and asks if it needs help. Seeing its relieved expression, he realized it was smart and wondered if it had figured out he was not an enemy. He apologized to the wolves in the middle of their hunt and told them that if they were not hostile, he would let them go. The gray wolves stared at him menacingly before launching forward. Aun took out his club and hit the approaching wolves, telling them they were slow. He was shocked to see that even without using strong arms, the result was this much. That's way more attack power than he expected. Beaten and exhausted, the fox fell to his feet. Seeing it has two tails, Aun understands this one is rare. He then rummages through his magic bag to find a recovery potion. After he found it, he poured it on the fox. With that, the fox was healed in an instant. From the looks of it, it seems alone. He asks if it want to become his companion. He told the fox to come with him, and when it barked in agreement, he suddenly felt like they were connected somehow. It is his first time, so he was not really sure, but looks like the subordination contract worked. He was pleased to meet it and ask for its name. Learning it doesn't have a name, he named it Kinu. He has heard that in his grandpa's hometown, there's a beautiful cloth just like its fur color, and it sounds similar to its cry too. His task now was to level up this fox, Kinu. They started moving to hunt for prey and Kinu defeated them. He noticed Kinu was pretty strong and assumed that if those gray wolves hadn't been in such numbers, Kinu could have beaten them. Seeing Kinu wasn't answering, he wondered if she was evolving. Well, he will keep watch around here, so it's fine. She must get a little rest. Slowly, Kinu's tail became 3. Witnessing that, Aum was glad she evolved safely and asked if she could move. Alright, while continuing to level up, they will head toward their destination. After a while, they saw a horned rabbit. Kinu gathered energy in her mouth before firing it at her target. Learning she could use magic, Aum was amazed. Isn't it strong? From afar, an individual in a carriage witnesses their hunt and quickly approaches them. He got off the carriage and told Aum he was strong. He then asks if he is a tamer. He is Balbal. He apologized for the late introduction and introduced himself. Aun adores Balbal's cuteness and inquires what kind of beastman he is. Well, he is a red panda beastman and is a traveling merchant. Aun already met some beast folk before and asked what he needed. Balbal apologized for his rudeness, but he'd like to purchase the meat of a horned rabbit. Is he sure that it was only meat, not the fur or the horn? Actually, if you head southeast from here, there's a place called Nyahol village, which is his hometown. Strong monsters have started appearing around the village, so hunting has become impossible and they are facing a food shortage. He wanted to bring back as much food as he could. Aun understands the situation and gives the horned rabbit for free. He is in trouble, right? In exchange, if Aun ever gets into trouble, Balbal should help him out. Balbal was teary-eyed with his kindness and promised to repay this kindness for sure. He asked his name and Aun gave it. When Kinu barked, Aun realized she was trying to say his name and adore her cuteness. He then asks if he should load the horned rabbit onto Balbal's cart because he still has it in the magic bag. Balbal called him Aun-san and was surprised by a pile of horned rabbits. Aun instructed him to keep it a secret. After that, Balbal politely bowed his head, thanking Aun and telling him to be careful on his way. Aun waved him goodbye and started his journey with Kinu. It was almost night when they arrived at the location. Aun tried to move a rock, certain that it was the spot. Finally, he found it. Maybe Kinu was wondering how he knew, so he explained that he happened to find it when he came here before. As he was leaning on the rock, it suddenly moved. Using telepathy, Aun asks Ars if he can hear him. He just formed a subordinate contract with a fox-type magic beast and wondered if he could check her status. Ars already knew he made the contract and told him Kinu was a fine name. If he touches part of his subordinate's body while checking, he can see it. Aum was thankful for that information and then confronted Kinu, asking if he could check her status. He opened her status window and saw that she was level 15, with HP of 553 over 1100, MP of 210 over 350, strength of 10, endurance of 15, dexterity of 5, intelligence of 35, agility of 15, and luck of 10. Her title is a dungeon master subordinate with the skills of energy ball, healing, and energy wave. Those stats and skills are insane. The reason she could endure being surrounded by gray wolves must be that her endurance and HP were high to begin with, and her intelligence is outstanding as well. That's why magic is faster than physical attacks. She is like a mage who can also fight on the front lines. With that, he praised her. Since she was his subordinate, maybe she could choose which stats to focus on, just like him. From now on, she must try to think about raising her intelligence. She might grow even stronger. Also, could she try casting healing on herself? Kinu woofed in agreement, which made Aun glad to see her glowing. As he observed how much she could heal, he wondered if healing scales with intelligence. If that's the case, as she continues evolving, she might become a legendary class monster. With that in mind, he praised her and told her that their goal was to become legendary class together. Kinu woofed in agreement. They then touched the magic circle and were teleported inside the dungeon. He explained that this place is called a dungeon where lots of monsters appear. It's perfect for leveling up. For now, they will defeat every monster they encounter and eat the meat of any monsters that look edible. Upon learning Kinu could also eat monster meat, they started moving. They encounter an E-rank gray wolf, but Kinu easily defeated it using her magic. She must have been really frustrated about getting focused by gray wolves earlier. Alright, this is where he found the magic sword Flam. Back then he was still human. He has evolved a lot since then. He checked his status window and saw he was level 29. So far, he evolved at level 10 into a ghoul and at level 20 into an Oni human. That means at level 30, there's a high chance of another evolution. He reveals to Kinu that he was actually a monster as well and might evolve soon. During evolution, he won't be able to move for a few minutes. When that happened, he was counting on her. Glad to serve his master, Kinu agreed. It sounds like leave it to me, right? Was really glad he contracted with her. So now they should move on with confidence. After defeating E-rank goblins, they encounter E-rank wolves. Since he was about to evolve, he left the rest to Kinu. She nodded before launching forward at the enemies. The system instructed him to select attributes. He met 2 conditions so attributes can be selected. He didn't think about this and wondered how much time he had. In a rush, he randomly picks attributes, but there is a next panel. He needs to select an evolution path. Human, a special evolution, mirror ogre, a doppelganger, and thunder ogre, another special evolution. He didn't like the doppelganger, so his choices are human and thunder ogre. However, thunder ogre wasn't even in the monster encyclopedia. What should he do? He cursed, but remembering his promise with Kinu, the answer became clearer to him, so he chose that. While Kinu is almost done fighting, a surge of power emanates from him during evolution. When it was done, Kinu quickly rushed at him excitedly. Aun assured her he was fine because the pain wasn't as bad as he expected this time. But did his viewpoint get a bit higher? He wanted to check his status, so he told Kinu to watch their surroundings for a few minutes. He opened his status window and saw that he was now level 30. I won't discuss everything, but you can pause the video. Seeing the lightning attribute and lightning skills, he was in awe to learn that he could now use magic. Additionally, the skills are insane. Air step was an excellent skill that allowed the user to change posture while in midair. Thunder flash for 5 minutes, strength and agility are doubled. Charge lightning adds 30% of intelligence to strength and agility. If he stacks charged armor and thunderclap together, it ends up like this. Isn't this too strong? Yes, it was strong, but it still isn't enough. Once they reach a wide area, he will test everything out. For now, they will head to the second floor. 2 hours later, after defeating some monsters, Aun exhales in exhaustion. Finally, they can go to the second floor. They stopped at this door and were met with goblins, goblin lancers, and gray wolves. All of them were E-rank monsters. This is just a small fry for Aun. Kinu showed him a let me fight eye, so he let her be but promised to help right away if it gets dangerous. Kinu rushes forward with confidence. She jumps, and jumps, bypassing the others. Observing she was heading toward the wall, Aun wonders if she has some plan. Kinu gathered energy in her mouth and then fired multiple magic spells at the enemies. A loud boom echoed upon impact. Aun was amazed at how she used the wide area magic. She lured the monsters in on purpose, then wiped them all out at once. That is a nice move. There are 2 remaining goblins, but she easily dealt with them. Against a pack that size, she was basically unharmed. She is even structuring the fight efficiently. As expected, she was amazing. Kinu approaches him, happy with the compliments. Aun looks at her closely, wondering if she has already evolved. He looked at her status and learned she is now a sky fox. Her endurance, dexterity, and intelligence improved, and she gained a new skill, clarity. Clarity increases her intelligence by 50%. He instructed her that from the next fight on, she must use clarity, then attack with magic. Going forward, she must check her status and consider ways to fight more effectively. They stood up, ready for the next difficulty, with Aun excited to test his new skills. They arrived at the upper floor, and upon entering, he wondered if it was outside. It is bright, but there is no sun, meaning they were still inside the dungeon. Finding the next floor is going to be a pain. D-rank black wolves appear, which made him smirk. This is now to test his new skills. He activated a lightning orb and then fired it towards the wolves, but he only hit one of them. His lightning attribute attack magic only has 3 limits when cast simultaneously. However, it is not moving the way he wanted. Status ailment effect maybe? If he can do this, fights get way easier. The wolves rush at him, so he readies himself and then punches them with Thunder Flash. Thunder Flash doubles strength and agility for 5 minutes. He looked at Kinu, boasting that her partner was strong. At this rate, he will save the charged Thunder Flash combo for the boss. He saw a building from a distance and questioned if it was the boss's room. However, it was guarded by the troll and greater wolves outside. They are all C-rank monsters. Trolls have regeneration. Half-assed attacks lose to the Regan speed and you just get worn down. He rushes at the trolls, leaving the greater wolves to Kinu. He called the trolls big lugs. He taunted them by saying that if they could last 1 minute, he would tuck his tail and leave this place. He activated the charge Soden that adds 30% of intelligence to strength and agility, and grants the lightning attribute. He swung it towards the furious troll, hitting its shoulder. The troll retaliates by swinging its club, but he manages to dodge. He notices the wounds still aren't regenerating. Their Regan doesn't seem that fast. If they don't regenerate quicker, they won't last a minute. He swung his weapon, destroying the troll's club. He then kicks it and moves to the other troll, swinging his club to hit its head. The troll fell to the ground lifeless. Now only one is left. Using his bare hands, he showered it with punches. He managed to defeat 3 trolls in 12 seconds. He looks at Kinu worried. If he goes to help right now, he will be overprotective, so he controls himself from helping. Kinu fired magic at the approaching enemy, but she still received a scratch on her back. A black wolf tried to sneak attack, but she managed to fire her magic before it got closer. With that, she stands as the winner, woofing at the air. Witnessing that, Aun heaved a sigh of relief. He approached her and commended her for doing a great job. Her fighting style was insane. For now, they will take a rest before fighting the boss. A treasure chest suddenly pops up. Their reward was concealed earrings with blue rarity, which means the highest rarity. It will let you conceal your status from appraisal, but it cannot block high-level appraisal. Aun asks if he could use it because wearing it will make entering towns feel way safer. Since their MP is already recovered, he decided to enter the boss's room. He pushed the door open and saw 2 upper-tier B-rank monsters, the ox-head ogre and the horse-head ogre. What a hassle. Guess Aun has to take them one at a time. He instructed Kinu to stay as support. While he will finish the horse head first, she must keep the ox head in check using her magic. He launched forward, activating the lightning orb and firing it at the horse head. However, the horse was faster than he expected. The horse swung down its weapon, but he managed to dodge and retaliate using his club. Still, the horse blocked his attack using its sword. They are supposed to be the same rank as a red ogre, but they are clearly stronger. Aun swung with intent to smash the weapon, and it didn't even chip. Don't tell him these are special individuals? He swiftly rushes to attack, and the moment the horse blocks his attack, he kicks it. He heard a sound and saw that it came from Kinu, who was lying on the ground with scratches. Worried, he quickly approached to check her and see that she was unconscious. Judging by her status, she should be okay, but he didn't like this result. He told her to stay and rest a bit and then gritted his teeth. It was unforgivable. He activated the Thunder Flash, furious as he blamed the 2 enemies. He also blames himself for misjudging the enemy and testing the waters. He furiously told the ox not to think it would get an easy death, calling it a livestock bastard. He swung his club, hitting the opponent on the head, and then activated the lightning orb and fired it towards the ox. He wasn't done yet. He swiftly jumped and swung his club down with full force, hitting the enemy. The ground cracked upon impact, and the ox was defeated. Using the air step, he moved towards the horse and called it a bastard. He materialized behind it and warned it not to get distracted. He swung his weapon and managed to hit the horse. As a result, it crashed into the wall. Aun swiftly moves closer and kicks it repeatedly. With that, the 2 B-rank monsters were defeated. He deactivated his skill and asked Kinu if she was alright. Seeing something strange was happening to her, he immediately rushed to check her and open her status window. Seeing that she is now level 30, he wondered if this was an evolution. When the glowing light vanishes, Kinu's form changes into a beast man. She now has the body of a human but still has her tail and long ears. The moment she woke up, she muttered the word kiss and repeated it when she rose. Realizing she was naked, he quickly removed his cloak and gave it to her. When she wore it, he couldn't help but still adore her cuteness. A treasure chest materialized at the perfect time. He opened it hoping it was something good for Kinu. However, the item wasn't for her but was insane. It is a full set of traditional clothing, said to be worn by a legendary ogre, male-only equipment. It has the red rarity and plus 20 defense. As he wore it, Kinu turned around and wondered what the button on the wall was for. Aon thinks he now looks like his grandpa and asks Kinu about his look. Kinu just muttered his name and pointed to the stairs that appeared. He commended her and explained that it might be the way to the core room. Kinu blushed, savoring the praise she received. They walk down the stairs and stop upon seeing a blinding light. They continue walking until they reach a room with a tall tree. Inside its branch was an altar with a sphere, the dungeon core. Aon picked it up and swallowed it. With that, the dungeon core absorption was confirmed. Aon Demiki has been registered as master of the Plainwelt Labyrinth. His intelligence stats have increased to the required threshold. As he wondered what kind of guardian this core is, the core transformed and frantically shouted that Aon totally eats him. It is a zombie plushie. As a master, Aon ordered it to prepare some girl's clothes. He must use the dungeon points right now. Kinu wanted the clothes to match Aon. Terrified, the plushie zombie calls him master, ready to do as he wishes. It summons a treasure chest, revealing a yukata dress with 15 defense and a red rarity. It is a dream piece for any girl from the land of the sun. An early work by a master craftsman. It is a top-tier work. Aon instructed Kinu to change outside and told the plushie zombie to just call him Aon, not master. Also, the cute girl is Kinu. The plushie zombie introduces itself as Elos. He politely told the new master that the dungeon core of Plainwelt was at his service. Aon shook his hand, also pleased to meet him. He revealed that he was already the master of another dungeon, the Fornoir Labyrinth. Elos already thought so because he can sense the connections held by a master. Shall he explain Aon's new abilities? When given the signal, Elos explains that he has gained 2 new abilities, Labyrinth Warp and Labyrinth Sync. Labyrinth Warp allows him to teleport between the dungeons under his control. His subordinates can use it as well. Labyrinth Sync allows him to move monsters and facilities between dungeons. Dungeon points will also be shared. That covers the basics. Aon understands it and inquires if they have many points saved up here. Elos affirms it and asks whether Aon would like a detailed breakdown. Aon wanted to be discussed later and told Elos he would leave the place in his hands for now. He instructed him to coordinate with Ars, the Black Forest Corps, to get things organized. He has a few ideas, but they're still a ways off. So for now, Elos must hoard as many points as he can. Elos answers in the affirmative and inquires where they will be resting. Well, they were warping back to the Black Forest. Kinu approached them and thanked Aon. Now their clothes matched. After introducing Elos to her, he asks permission to check her status. You can pause this panel to read her stats, okay. Her attack magic is insane, her defense is up, and she can heal. Basically, as long as she has mana, she is a weapon of mass destruction. Her human form was from the humanization skill. Her stats are nuts, and her level up speed is way too fast. Is experience shared between them? Well, no point guessing for now. Looking at her closely, he realized her cuteness was deadly. He informed her she gotten crazy strong, but Kinu wasn't satisfied. She wants to get even stronger. Aon likes her spirit, but first they need to head back to the Black Forest and rest. She has evolved 3 times today, so she must be exhausted. With that, they teleported to the Fornoir Labyrinth using the interdungeon teleportation. As Kinu wondered if it was the place, Ars excitedly welcomed them. It seems the transfer went off without a hitch. Aon introduces Kinu to him and explains she is a fox-type monster, but her humanizing skill gives her this form. After Kinu told Ars she was pleased to meet him, Ars came closer to welcome her and introduce himself. Aon ordered Ars to get a room ready for Kinu and call it a day. They should rest for now and continue the conversation in the morning. However, Kinu wanted to share a room with him. Aon agreed, but they have to put 2 beds side by side. Kinu shook her head, disagreeing. Aon told her it was not exactly appropriate, but Kinu was scared to sleep. She was afraid she would wake up and be all alone again. Aon tried to argue, but when Ars told him it is a master's duty to put his subordinate at ease, he finally agreed. They will sleep in the same room then. With that, the 2 lie on the bed, wishing each other good night. A few minutes later, Aon opened his eyes and looked at Kinu. Kinu was born in a land of ice, surrounded by her own kind, fox monsters. They all had snow-white fur and a single tail. She was just like them, but one day her fur took on a golden tint and a second tail sprouted. She didn't understand what was happening. She woke up different. Her kin didn't accept her, stating she wasn't one of them anymore. She wondered why. They were hunting together just yesterday, but now they were hurting her. She was the same as all of them, and she wanted so badly to believe that, but at this rate, her own family is going to kill her. She ran away, thinking to herself that she couldn't fight alone because she was too weak. She just wanted to stay with them and question if appearance really matters that much. Is she condemned to be alone in this world forever? She wants friends. She wants family. She encounters wolves and thinks they're so lucky because they all look the same. She thinks this is where she gets eaten. She accepted it, believing she had no one anyway and was weak. Besides, she's a little tired of running. The wolves pounce at her and she could feel the pain. She couldn't breathe and wondered if this was the end. But no, she doesn't want to die. Not here, not like this. She won't give up and will fight until the very end. At that moment, Aun materialized before her eyes, asking if she needed help. When she finally opened her eyes, the wolves were all dead. She could see how strong Aun was, and yet she wasn't scared of him at all. After he healed her wounds, Aun invited her to come with him. Thinking he could be her family, she agreed. She can feel a bond forming between them, so warm. She was happy they could be together even if they looked different. Since then they have hunted so much. She has evolved so much and has become so much stronger. Aun never stopped talking to her, but she still hasn't done anything for him. She was taken out in a single hit earlier and thinks she was useless to him, yet he still worries for her. This man who cries for her sake, she wants to be useful to him. She wants to look like him. After that, she woke up in a new form. Even if she wakes up tomorrow and she has changed again, she knows Aun will never cast her aside. Today was full of the happiest moments of her life. Aun taught her that they could be a family regardless of their shapes or races. As long as she is with him, she knows she will have many more happy moments. Will she ever be his favorite? No, that's not what matters. What matters is that he is the most important person in her heart. She knows Aun will go on to be important to many other people, but she wants to be there to see it. She wants to share his dreams. By Aun's side, she will get stronger too. Aun was the first to wake up the next morning and pat Kinu's head, wondering if she was still sleeping. Kinu opened her eyes and greeted him with good morning. When Aun apologized for waking her up, she clarified that she already woken up a little while ago. She was convincing herself it wasn't a dream. Now it really feels real. Aun was glad to hear that. After a short while, they met the two dungeon cores because Aun wanted to talk to them. While Ars greeted them with a good morning and asked whether they had slept well, Elos asked what the master wished to discuss. Well, Aun wanted to talk about everything so far and the plans he was considering for the future. After learning that Aun had originally been human, Elos was shocked. On the other hand, Kinu realized that she wasn't alone anymore after meeting the three of them. Aun told them that he promised Kinu he would become comrades and aim for the strongest. Ars and Elos are also important comrades, and creating a clan with his important comrades is his dream. The Adventurers Guild has a system called clans, where you can form a community. He wants to create the strongest, best clan like a family, with comrades he can trust. That sounds splendid. Aun's dream is Kinu's dream as well. Elos asks the master what they should do, so Aun told him that he would like to use the Fornoir labyrinth as the clan house first, so they can make this dungeon impervious to entry from the outside. It is not possible, however. Dungeons exist all over this world. The reason is that dungeons serve the function of circulating magical essence. This planet circulates magical essence to sustain life activities. The living beings of this planet are the same. When they are active or die, the system is such that magical essence flows out, and dungeons play the role of circulating magical essence efficiently. Elos was telling it now because if they do not circulate the magical essence, they cannot obtain dungeon points. If they close the entrance, absorbing magical essence becomes difficult, and the dungeon would become inoperable. Aun understands it and asks if they couldn't just efficiently earn dungeon points at the Plainwelt Labyrinth and then use them to expand the Fornoir Labyrinth facilities. They can use labyrinth synchronization, right? The three agreed. They never heard of such things. Using the dungeon's functions, they will first build a town. They will expose the first layer to the plains as a town and use points to build a structure. Just an inn and an item shop to start is fine. Then, somewhere in it, they will place a magic circle that transfers people to the second layer. From there onward is the actual dungeon. Wouldn't it work if they made adventurers think that was the illusion? If there's a dungeon and a town, people will gather, right? If the dungeon can absorb magical essence from the town as well, the dungeon becomes more substantial and more adventurers will delve. Ars agreed. If they do that, they could earn points indefinitely. It was a splendid plan. If they devise the core room's entrance, they need not worry about the split core being absorbed or destroyed by others. Aun agreed and told them there are about two problems. First, there's no reason or personnel on the human side to build a village or town. The other is that they were monsters. If they can enter the town, they can intentionally leak information. Also, to establish the clan, it's essential for them to become adventurers, but they were monsters. Wasn't Aun originally an adventurer? Well, the human him is probably registered as dead. His appearance is completely different from before too, so he would need to re-register. But with these horns, there's a chance he won't be seen as human. With that said, he suddenly remembered he was an Oni human. His grandpa once told him about a race called the Oni people. They have horns and live in the Wa country. Then maybe they can just say Aun was from Wa country and was here on a warrior's pilgrimage. Ars also heard of the Oni people. They possess incredible strength and are terribly powerful, but they are few in number and are not a race that appears in the public eye. Well, if that's all they need, Aun thinks they can make it work somehow. Since Kinu is a beast person, there shouldn't be a problem. For now, they will go to the town of Rikuria once and try to register as adventurers. Is that okay with Kinu? When Kinu agreed, Aun instructed the two dungeon cores to keep earning points as they had been. If anything happens, they can contact him via telepathy. With that, they wave goodbye. They will first return to the plain Welt and then head to the town of Rikuria. Using the labyrinth to labyrinth transfer, they were teleported to the plain Welt labyrinth. For Kinu to get used to combat in human form, Aon plans to hunt on their way to Rikuria. Kinu was certain she could fight fine. On their journey, they first encounter these horned rabbits, but she easily dealt with them using magic. She was really amazing. Since evolving, the power of her magic seems to be on a completely different level. He sensed a carriage approaching from a distance and, upon realizing it was Balbal, Aon called out his name and asked what was going on. Balbal recognizes him but not Kinu. Aon told him it was Kinu, the magical fox beast, who was with him last time they met. She used a humanization skill to take human form. Or rather, beast person transformation maybe? Balbal was in awe. He had never seen such a cute beast person. He rode back in the carriage and asked for Aon's help because a dungeon near Nyahol village seemed like it was about to cause a stampede. The reason stronger monsters have been increasing recently also seems to be monsters coming out of that dungeon. If this continues, everyone in his hometown will die, including his family. He was prepared to hand over his entire fortune to Aon just to help him. Aon tried to calm him down and agreed. He will try to do something about it, so Balbal should guide them to Nyahol village. Balbal was very thankful and then started to move. Did Balbal say stampede? That's when a massive number of monsters overflow from a dungeon, right? And what about the current situation? When Balbal left the village to call for help, the beast people in the village who could fight said they would somehow hold out, but Balbal didn't think they could last long. The village chief had the residents prepare for evacuation, but they likely have nowhere to go. There were also voices saying they can't abandon the village, so Balbal thinks the evacuation is facing difficulties. Understanding that the situation was bad, Aon wondered what to do. Kinu suggested evacuating them to the plain Welt, and he agreed. If Aon makes adjustments, safety can be guaranteed. If there are beast people who can still fight after evacuating, they should be able to handle the surrounding magical beasts without issue. Balbal has no idea what plain Welt is and wonders where it is. Since Aon was about to tell him a secret, he asked Balbal to swear not to tell anyone else. Balbal agreed. The secret of their benefactors, who are willing to risk their lives for strangers like them, he swore upon his pride as a beast person and a merchant to protect his secret. Relieved, Aon revealed that he was a dungeon master, someone who manages a certain dungeon. The dungeon he mentioned was located in the Verdant Plains, and it was called Plain Welt. He promised they can evacuate there safely. The problem is that they have to stop the monster invasion while the village residents are evacuating. With that, he asks for a moment to think of a strategy. Well, Balbal alone can't do anything, so he will follow Aon's instructions. Aon contacted the two dungeon cores, informing them that on their way to Rikuria town, they met a beast person merchant acquaintance. He says the dungeon near his hometown is about to cause a stampede, so he wants the two to tell him specifically about the stampede. Well, a stampede is a rampage caused by a lack of magical essence within a dungeon. To replenish essence, the dungeon core attempts to obtain it by generating monsters in a group and initiating battles, unrelated to points. So, if they defeat the monsters that come out in massive numbers, will the stampede stop? At best, but only temporarily. Once a dungeon enters that state, it goes berserk, and the spawning of monsters will not cease until its core is destroyed. It follows a pattern of first wave, second wave, third wave, with monsters increasing each time. If they completely annihilate one wave, they can buy a few days until the next arrives. Aon understands the explanation and has a strategy. He instructed Elos to quickly build houses on the first layer of Plain Welt. He will instruct when to expose it to the Verdant Plains later. He then informed Kinu that he already has a strategy for evacuating beast people and told her that her role would be quite dangerous. Kinu nodded in agreement, willing to do anything he said. Balbal apologized to the two for dragging them into this mess and thanked them. Aon told him there is no need to apologize and just save the thanks for later. For now, they need to rescue the beast people in Nyahol village. Finally, the Nyahol village is now visible to their eyes. Just like they discussed, the plan starts now. Aon was counting on Balbal. Aon and Kinu went their separate ways to help fight the monsters. As the beast people were fighting these monsters, a wall of fire suddenly annihilated their opponents. That attack came from Kinu. While she continued showering the monsters with her magic, Aon told the beast kin that they would handle the monsters from here. He introduced himself and instructed them to return to Nyahol village to help with the evacuation. About their questions, Balbal will explain everything to them. If allies are nearby, it makes wide area magic harder to use. Securing the villagers' safety is their top priority, right? The Beastman confirmed it and agreed to leave the area. Aon took out his club and told Kinu not to worry about catching him with it. She just needs to wipe out any monsters he fails to finish. Kinu agreed but stated she would never, ever hit him. Aon activated the thunderclap to double his strength and agility for 5 minutes and swiftly struck the monster in his path. With that insane speed and power, he managed to defeat a lot. He notices C-rank monsters are starting to mix among the D ranks and wonders if monsters in the later waves are stronger. She asks Kinu about the situation, and she responds that about half have left. Aon suddenly felt strange in his body and was frustrated that he was about to evolve in a time like this. Kinu smiled at him, telling him to leave it to her. Aon had no choice but to trust her and close his eyes. The system informed him that due to special evolution, the evolution destination cannot be selected. It then started his evolution. A surge of power emanates from his body during evolution, and after that, he opened his eyes to check his status. He then alerted Kinu that he was about to go all out because he planned to use a new skill. However, she might get caught in it too, so he advises her to retreat at full speed and take defensive measures. If she judges she can't block it, she must withdraw via dungeon return. He then rushes towards the monsters and sees that even evolved monsters are now mixed in, and that in the rear are B ranks. This is the final stretch. He will blow them away. As the monsters got nearer, he activated the thunderclap and charged lightning thunder drum transformation. He jumped, striking the monsters nearby, and then swung his weapon around to defeat others. Observing he was now near the center, he activated his newly transformed lightning orb and struck it to the ground, electrocuting the monsters. He jumped up high and then activated the maximum input, Narite King, and punched the ground. The earth shook and the ground cracked so wide that it created a massive impact. From afar, his lightning energy could still be seen. After using that technique, his natural MP recovery is disabled for a time. Let's explain their plan now. Earlier, Aon told Bal that once it starts, the stampede won't stop until the core is destroyed. That means they will have to give up on the building and fields in Nyahol village. They need the villagers to accept that. Since the stampede comes in waves, if they completely wipe out the first wave, they will have a few days of leeway. During that time, Bal should evacuate the villagers to the area near Plainwelt. About eliminating the monsters, the fighters will be just him and Kinu. They can't abandon the warriors currently fighting, but if they judge annihilation to be impossible, they will retreat. If that happens, the evacuation will need to be rushed. So Bal must persuade them as quickly as possible. At present, it looks like they cleaned up nicely. Kinu was amazed by his power and assured him she was okay because she had gotten outside the effective range. Learning she was near Nyahol village, Aon waved his hand and told her he would head there now. When they entered the village, Bal ran up to them excitedly and asked if they were okay. Aon assured him he was fine and informed him that the monsters were annihilated. Bal was amazed to discover that the black lightning was his magic, and he explained that the villagers had decided to evacuate. Aon was glad to hear that and ordered him to depart right away because they only had a few days. But who is this man? Well, he is the village chief, and he was grateful to Aon for saving the beast folk. Aon told the village chief not to thank him, but to thank Bal instead. He only helped because Bal was desperately trying to save them. More importantly, they need to talk about what comes next. After a while, with Aon's instruction, Elos exposed the first layer plane of Plainwelt and completed the preparations to receive the beast folk. Under the direction of Bal and Mermel, the beast folk began moving together to Plainwelt. According to Bal, even beast folk who insisted on staying behind decided to evacuate after seeing the Narite King. He then approached Bal and told him he wanted him to become their ally as well. Aon wants him to cooperate with their future plans. Bal, as an ally? Is that really okay? He can't fight, you know? Well, there's a role only he can fulfill. Aon was planning to form a clan, but he had never managed or run an organization. And fundraising? A merchant like him excels at that, right? If that's the case, Bal thinks he can be of use. He wants to join Aon as a companion. That's great. Also, would he be willing to do something called a subordination contract? Even though it's a contract, it just increases what they can do. It doesn't bind or restrain him. As a necessary ally, Bal was willing to do anything. With that, the contract was completed. With Aon and Kinu's help, the villagers were able to evacuate safely to Plainwelt. It was all thanks to Bal as well. They absolutely must have Bal serve as the representative of the beast folk village. Seeing Bal wasn't there, the village chief wondered where he had gone. Speaking of Bal, he was now standing frozen in front of a tree inside the Plainwelt labyrinth. He can't believe there was a place like this inside the dungeon. The two dungeon cores inform him that this is the core room of the Plainwelt labyrinth, and they are in charge of the dungeon core and handling overall dungeon management. Bal knew they were Elos and Ars because he heard about them from Aon. He then introduced himself as Bal, a traveling merchant from Nyahol village. Aon started to explain the plan going forward. First, they will leave resolving the stampede to the adventurers. There are two reasons. The first is to make it easy for the humans to understand why the beast folk abandoned Nyahol village and are building a new village. The second is to prevent them from standing out too much. If Aon solves the stampede themselves, there's a chance the humans will misunderstand. Aon wants to avoid that as much as possible. As for what happens next, Bal will heads to the city of Ricuria and tells the Adventurers Guild that a stampede may occur. He will also tell them the beast folk have already abandoned the village and evacuated. Aun predicted that the stampede would likely head for the commercial city of Miralda. Miralda is this country's commercial hub. If they realize the nation is at major risk, both the guild and the country's upper leadership will move quickly. When asked about his plan, Aun explained that he and Kinu would hold the stampede back a little. He wants to show the adventurers that they are allies. Once the timing is right, they will return to the Fornoir labyrinth. Understanding the plan, Balbal turned around to head to Ricuria and told him to be careful. Before teleporting, Aun reminds him to contact him via telepathy if anything happens. 2 days later, at Azure Green Plains, the midpoint between Nyahol village and Miralda, Aun told Kinu that the adventurers are advancing from Ricuria and Miralda, and it sounds like they will arrive here soon. After Balbal followed the plan and reported to the Adventurers Guild, they received word that a subjugation force had been organized. That information was also conveyed to Miralda, and adventurers were gathered under an emergency quest from the nation. Among them is the S-rank party Jinsuna no Suki Silver Sand Moon, and it seems the force will total over 100 people. He and Kinu's goal is to use this stampede to make the adventurers recognize them. Also for Kinu to evolve. Kinu's level rose a lot from the recent monster hunt, so she will probably evolve soon. Once the evolution starts, they will return to the Fornoir labyrinth. Without standing out too much, they will move in a way that just keeps the front line steady. With that, the battle against monsters started with Kinu using magic and Aun with his club. They begin the battle before the adventurers arrive because if they do that, it will be obvious at a glance that they were allies. Scold from Silver Sand Moon Party introduced himself from behind and asked if Aun and Kinu were also adventurers. He will also join the fight. Aun responded that they were traveling when a group of monsters suddenly attacked them. He then leaves the other side to Scold. After taking down some monsters, Scold looks at Aun to observe how he fights. A smile formed on his face after seeing him. Another group arrived and, upon recognizing that adventurers from Ricuria were already on the battlefield, they joined the fight. The battle continued, and when this guy fell and was about to leave the earth, Kinu launched multiple attacks to help him and destroyed monsters. Sensing that the evolution was about to start, the two decided to return to the Fornoir labyrinth. Aun noticed Kinu was evolving on the other side of the bridge, and when it was done, he approached her, surprised to see her grow larger. While Big Fluffy was cute as well. Is she okay? Embarrassed, Kinu transformed into humanoid form, which made Aun realize that she was the same as before in this form. He checks her status and sees that her magic has gotten stronger, and she can recover status ailments as well. She has become a really well-balanced magic user. With Kinu, their party becomes way more stable. They will leave the stampede to the adventurers so they can do their work. After that, while receiving updates from Balbal, they carried out maintenance and expansion of Plainwelt from the second floor onward. Balbal's report came about 3 days later. Silver Sand Moon destroyed the core and the stampede was completely stopped. When Balbal arrived, they gathered inside the Fornoir labyrinth core room to discuss. As they already know, the stampede was stopped by the subjugation force led by Silver Sand Moon. It seems only the Silver Sand Moon party defeated the boss, and the nation's upper leadership knows about the core. Adventurers who join the subjugation will receive rewards from the nation based on their contributions, but it seems Balbal will also receive a special reward for providing information quickly. Balbal requested a large capacity magic bag. Also, Aun and Kinu were being talked about among the adventurers. They said there were insanely strong travelers who helped with the subjugation. It's almost scary how perfectly it went according to plan, but Aun thinks it was enough for now. Next is his report. Due to the aftereffects of the stampede, Plainwelt Labyrinth received a huge amount of dungeon points. Using those points, he expanded the dungeon to 8 floors. Clearing the deepest levels will probably require intermediates or higher, but up to the 5th floor, he placed low-rank monsters and adjusted them so that even beginners can explore. Next, about the 1st floor, the Beastfolk village on the exposed floor in the Azure Green Plains was settled down over the last few days. The boundary with the Azure Green Plains has been made indistinguishable, and the surrounding monsters are being hunted without issue by the warriors. Food supplies seem fine too. Also, he already asked the beast folk to build a shop and an inn. He wants to put Balbal in charge as the shopkeeper. For the initial investment, Balbal can use Aun's savings from when he was human. If the number of challengers increases, it should turn a big profit. The village chief and Aun decided that Balbal would become this village's representative. By the way, in half a month, the plan is to build an entrance from the village to the dungeon's 2nd floor. Can Aun trust Balbal with it? Balbal answered in the affirmative. It is a big responsibility, but he will do his best. Then what should the 2 dungeon cores do? Aun instructed Ars to close the entrance to the Fornoir labyrinth and rebuild it into a clan base. Elos will watch how points accumulate and handle the expansion of the Plainwelt labyrinth. Regarding Kinu and Aun, they will go to Recuria now and register as adventurers. Their first goal is B rank. Once they reach B rank, they can establish a clan. Now that everyone knew what to do, he was counting on them. With that, they all did their assigned tasks while the two headed to Recuria City. When they entered the city, Aun noticed they stood out. Well, it can't be helped with their outfits. Finally, they arrived at the Recuria Adventurers Guild. When they went inside, some recognized them because they helped them during the stampede. When he told the receptionist that he came to register as an adventurer, the receptionist pointed towards a door, telling them that the guild master was expecting them. Upon entering, the guild master was glad to see the rumored travelers and introduce himself as Sparuz, the guild master of this city. He was pleased to meet them. Chapters end at 10. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you love this manga. Have a good day.